Good evening. I'm Veronica Kazanjian-Babian, graduate from the class of 1995 and from the Office of Alumni Relations at Thomas Jefferson University. I'm happy to welcome you to tonight's event, Inside a Brand, an evening with Gretchen Bauer. Alumna Gretchen Bauer, founder and CEO of BSWANKY, graduated from the university in 1988 and began her luxury handbag business only 3 years ago. Gretchen will be interviewed by communications student Samantha Del Sordo, and together they will discuss Gretchen's journey as to how she began creating her unique products and the ways she has helped her team of female artisans find their voices. Thank you so much for all the questions that we received in advance. These have been passed on to our interviewer, and many will be addressed during the event. At the end of tonight's interview, you will have an opportunity to ask further questions. Please use the Q&A button located at the bottom of your screen. And if you don't see the button, try moving your mouse and the Q&A button should appear. Gretchen and Samantha, thank you both so much for joining us this evening. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am Samantha Del Sordo. I am a current senior at Thomas Jefferson University, and I am graduating in just a few weeks. I'm so excited to be joined this evening by Gretchen Bauer. She's the founder and CEO of BSWANKY and a 1988 marketing graduate at Jefferson. Gretchen, hey, how are you tonight? Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me, Sam. I'm excited about this.
So I'm going to start off by asking you, could you tell us a little bit about your professional journey and how you got to where you are today?
I graduated in 88, and then I went on and entered into the world of interior design out on the main line of Philadelphia, not far from Jefferson. And I spent 26 years decorating on the main line. I had a design center in Paoli, Pennsylvania as well, and I loved it. I was passionate about decorating and elevating the women in their space by creating interiors that were a reflection of them. And then it came to my attention in my interior design business once I moved it down to Sarasota, Florida, where I'm located now, that there were women in the US garment industry that were actually in sweatshops. And I was shocked to hear that they even existed in this country. So finding out that, I entered into the world of manufacturing and designing handbags because these women were in a sweatshop in San Antonio manufacturing handbags. I flew out, partnered with them, and started BSWANKY. And that was 3 years ago.
Could you tell us, so most of the people that work for you, or almost all of them, are women, right? What
Correct.
made you want to hire all of these women?
Well, when I found out that these women in San Antonio were working in the conditions they were in, I flew out and built a factory and a building out in San Antonio, bought all the machinery and started producing with these amazing women. They had the talents, they had the gratitude, the resilience, and the skills, but they didn't know the language. And that was what their challenge was. And based on that, they were limited in what they could do. And I didn't see that as a challenge. I saw it as an opportunity. So I started doing it with them there. And then because the distance was challenging, I opened up in Sarasota, and those women drove all the way from San Antonio twice to train the women in Sarasota. And you asked about them. They all came to us. We put out the word, and they came to our building and wanted to work in our atelier. So it's amazing. They're out there and they need the work, and we are able to provide an incredible culture for them now.
That's amazing. I'm currently in a sourcing class right now, and we're learning about factories in other countries and everything. And it really is horrible, the conditions. And to hear that there are some in the United States still is horrible. But I'm so happy to hear that you're able to move them and have them kind of help you create your brand. So as like a female as a business owner and a woman, what have been some obstacles that you've faced throughout your time that you have been working?
That's a good question. I entered into manufacturing the leather industry, and it is predominantly men. It's I purchased my machinery in Texas, and when I would call and I would ask, they didn't take me seriously, and I thought that was interesting. So it posed a challenge, but it also created opportunities because I was underestimated. So I thought that was interesting, and other people wanted to help me because of that. Several women, several men said, "You are like a breath of fresh air in this industry." So there were good things about it, but it was challenging at the beginning because not a lot of people took me seriously. So, so that's a big part. It still goes on. I'm shocked. I heard Gloria Steinem speak back in the '80s, and I'd like to see things move forward more than they have with women in industry, especially in manufacturing.
Yeah, for sure. And you were talking about your suppliers, and how did you end up finding suppliers in the US?
I ask. It's up on our board at work. Ask, ask, ask. I research and I ask, and uh, the worst you can hear is no from people. But I surrounded myself with other people in the industry, and I joined startup incubator groups. That was very helpful. Sarasota, we have a lot of those, and it's a very nurturing community. So I know in Philadelphia, there's the same thing. And if you join those groups of startups, everyone is willing to share information. And then I also turn to mentors in the industry, in the design industry, fashion industry, and marketing industry. And they are so helpful.
And so, how did you come up with the idea of using an invasive species? Or could you talk about how you kind of thought about using that? Because, like, is it because of sustainability? Have you always wanted to maybe include sustainability in your career too? So,
You know, we're always, our tagline is be the difference. So every step of the process, we have a decision to do something and we want to choose the right thing. And whether it be the way the women are part of a family in our atelier or the materials we source. So it's all about relationships. And in Florida, we have a huge problem with the pythons. They are an invasive species and they were introduced during one of the hurricanes. A couple pet sanctuaries were washed away, and all of these pythons, different species, were introduced into the ecosystem in the Everglades. So there's an estimated 300,000 of them right now. But you asked how it happened. The python hunters came to me. And that's what was so neat. And right now we have partnered with Amy Seaweed, who is a decorated female python hunter. She just made national news with catching a python over 17 feet. She's tiny. I mean, she was in the photo that was shown for this webinar. She's tiny, and single-handedly, she took down a 17-foot python. So it, they are decimating the mammal population in the Everglades. They are eating alligators now, and they have no natural predator. Only humans right now are the only predator they have. And so it seemed like a perfect fit. And they're beautiful. Each one, because of the different species, are completely different. Hold on. Right here is one python handbag. And if you look at the markings, this one is darker patterns and it's from the brackish water. And then this one is from where there are pine needles and it's called a blondie. So they're all absolutely beautiful. So yes, we're creating beautiful handbags, but we're also helping the environment, you know, one handbag at a time. And that is what I'm passionate about. And it's exciting.
so to change the subject a little bit, what would you say your greatest inspiration is?
Oh, that's a really good question. My greatest inspiration are the women that work with me. They are resilient. They say that it might be difficult, but not impossible. And they say in the word, they put up a sign one day, and they did this themselves. They took the word impossible and they separated it. I apostrophe M possible. They challenge me every day, and they're my inspiration. I have never walked a day in their lives as immigrant women, not speaking the language. And they come from such a place of gratitude for their position, their job, for their ability to create these incredible handbags. And they are focused on being the best luxury handbag company in the world. So they inspire me.
That's actually one of the probably the best feelings for you too. And I'm sure they work so hard. And I love how much they're included in the process, in the design process, and the creative process, and creating kind of like a brand identity. So how would you define like a brand in your sense, or your brand?
Hmm. I define our brand as being and the difference.
Mhm.
Brands in general, I don't know how I would define all brands. Ours, I think it might be overused, a lifestyle brand, but ours truly is because our customers and the women that carry our products, they go from being admirers to then, well, they go from being spectators, then to admirers, and then to participators, where they end up purchasing and collecting. They collect our handbags, but then they are the ones out there on social media, out on the streets, literally telling people how much they love our products. They write me thank you notes. They, are vocal about it. But our brand is really, it's it's more of a state of mind, I think.
And you were talking about social media, and do you think that is one of like the biggest like things today to help boost your brand or build your brand?
I think social media is, and we have done everything organically, which not everyone would agree with. But to build a luxury brand in 3 years, I just read something where the average luxury brand takes 30 years. So in 3 years, for us to be competing with Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Prada, it's pretty impressive. And it's because of our customers. I mean, it's the way they feel about it. So we've done everything based on making our products as beautiful as we can, as functional to perform. And our customers walk on water. We design for them. So that's something, Sam. Listening to those customers helps build the brand. It's all about them.
And what was one of your early moments where you thought to yourself, "Wow, I'm killing it! Like this is my moment. Like this is my first like big moment. Like kind of like the being like under a bunch of lights, like your stardom moment."
Um, I think when we sold our first handbag over uh, $1,800. I think that was like the sweet spot. And that's when I said, "Oh my gosh, we're a proven brand." That's crazy. When we started out, just as an idea, and we started out basically to elevate these women in this industry. That was my focus. I didn't set out to design and manufacture handbags. I set out to change the way women are treated in the garment industry. And so then when we sold that $1,800 bag, and then one other thing, last week, one of our customers purchased her 17th BSWANKY. Okay.
Who's your
That
number one fan? That's amazing. I really appreciate hearing like things like this, and like not just focusing on how many bags you sell, but also like just the work that everyone puts into it. Um, so another question I would like to ask is, what was your transition like from being in a corporate world to being self-employed?
Well, I actually was always self employed. I had my own design center, my own design firm. So I have never really worked for anyone else. So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. And if you love it, I mean, you hear it all the time. If you love it, it doesn't feel like work. I loved designing up north. I loved it. I did over 200 homes. I did restaurants, corporate buildings, and every single experience was different, exciting, and wonderful. And so I think it takes a certain kind of person to be self-employed. And every day I wake up and I say, I was meant for this. There's a book from an MIT professor, and in the book is about entrepreneurship. The name escapes me of the book, but there's something called the messy middle, and it's when it hits the fan. And there is something about my personality that I thrive when that happens. So when it seems like the company's going to end, or we're cut up, during COVID, a lot of stuff has happened. When it seems like you can't get something, I absolutely thrive in that situation. And if you get that feeling like I can't be stopped, then this is the right path for you to be an entrepreneur. So that's where I think it's perfect. And it's not for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's extremely rewarding.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm actually a lot like that too, in a sense. I'm like, everybody's like, it's all because growing up, I was in like student council and I did a lot of work with my like school, and I volunteered a lot, and everybody be like, it's never going to come together. I'm like, no, there's always hope. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep pushing. And like, it's kind of like coming up with new ideas of ways to make it even better, or make it come from like where you think everything's falling down, but then it ends up being the best it's ever been. And you mentioned about
Elaborate, just said something about making it better. I love what you just said, because we fine as a 4-letter word in our building. We keep raising the bar, and exceptional. And the women in the building, they will edit things and improve them where they've made their jobs harder. And I turn to them, I go, you're giving yourself more work. And they go, we want to be the best. So that's part of it, Sam. You really hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, it's all about, I think, like hard work, and my parents always said, never say you're fine, because fine's just a boring word. You got to use a bigger word than that. Or say that. And I think like just building and keep going with everything. And while you were talking about that, you mentioned about the pandemic that's going on. How are you continuing your growth during this pandemic, while understanding the struggles of the average consumer? And what are you facing, and are you facing any struggles today with like this pandemic going on?
It's interesting. When this all started, uh, I I had people contact me, and they said, one of my advisors said, this is an opportunity to get ahead. He said, this is an opportunity to work harder than you've ever worked, because this will be the new normal. And he is from Germany, and he took his time and he met with me weekly during this. And we started by making masks. And there was such a demand for masks. We have all these sewing machines, and the women have sewing machines in their homes. And so we started making masks and producing them at a great rate. And they were beautiful masks. And we started donating them. And we donated to organizations even outside Philadelphia, all over the country. We're donating to nonprofits, to hospitals, to retirement homes, to the sheriff's department. And the women said they would not take money. They were furloughed for several weeks, and they said, we will not take money. So what that did, they wanted their job security. They said, Gretchen, we know this will help be swanky. So we made national news. We were all over the country in the news making these masks. We were contacted by people all over. We just kept sending them out and providing them. And what it did is it opened up partnerships with some nonprofits, and it put our name out there. And it was the best thing we ever could have done. And we also started designing new products and making our products better during that downtime. I went to work every single day by myself. I went to our facility because I wanted to focus. But I know it's challenging for people. But if they can see that there are new opportunities out there, like get your website up and running. You mentioned social media. Improve your social media. Improve your partnerships with other organizations, and also build up other companies and align yourself with them too. And that's what we've done.
I think that's on it. I saw when I was researching your company more, I saw that you made masks. I also made masks, and I donated half the profits to my local theater company in my town. And I had my little sewing machine from 1953. It was my great grandmother's, like working. But I think like doing things like that and putting your name out there, and since you made national news, like that's amazing for your brand too, and it'll help build and build and build more. And I know Christian Siriano did something along the lines of that too. And just the help and doing things like that I know at Jefferson, we have so many medical students, and I know, appreciate anybody who donates masks or gives them masks. So thank you for that, and for doing that for everyone. And also the women wanting to just donate their time. I know how much time it takes to make all those masks, and that's just amazing. That's a lot of time and a lot of hours, and they didn't even want to be paid for that. And that just makes my heart happy that people are willing to do so much for people that they don't even know. But my next,
I just have one that we did inspire other people to do other things is we donated handbags. They do have a value, and we raised over $8,000 for one bag at a time, donating them to the organizations that couldn't do their fundraisers. So that was simple for us. Here's a handbag, we'll help you promote it. But the ripple effect was to help these organizations. And it led to more giving partners. And if you give, when you give, the payback, it just keeps going and going. You have to give and let go, which we do. But in the end, it leads to aligning you with like-minded people.
Mm-hmm. I saw today one of my friends who's a photographer. She was talking about doing giveaways for like photography. Now, would you think that like maybe doing like charity events or giveaways and like putting your company name out there, do you think that helps build more of a like a larger fan base in a sense, or like consumer base?
It does. I think that it's nearly 90% of all purchases are influenced by whether the company gives or not. So, thing that is really important to us, but it's where this all began too, was the giving end. I wasn't even focused making a luxury handbag. I was focused on employing these women. So I think if your heart's in it and you believe, it's all possible.
Yeah, I believe in that too. My parents always made sure that we donated things because owning a restaurant, we always were like, that'll maybe help us. And it has helped us a lot. And also just volunteering time too for things like that. My next question for you is could you give us some tips and tricks about consumer market research?
Oh, okay. That's a good question.
Going back to your marketing roots too.
Well, it's interesting. I keep going back to I am not an expert in many things. I've become an expert in knowing what people like, seeing beauty and design. But I've learned to align myself with experts. And if they are willing to help you, then pull them in. And I had the opportunity to connect with a gentleman in the UK during the pandemic. He didn't have a lot to do. And so I sent him a handbag for his wife, and his background is luxury marketing. And so he took the time back and forth to help me with segmenting our markets. We have three different segments, he said, in the luxury handbag uh, marketplace. And I also read everything I can. So not just listening to experts, but I subscribe to all of the national trade magazines. I read everything, I research. And again, if you love it, it's not work. I keep reading it and finding everything out. And if something works, then you repeat it. If it doesn't, you move on. But marketing with social media, everything is changing so quickly. And even during the pandemic, everything has shifted on how people purchase, on how people get their information. I mean, we're all sitting at home. We're on our phones, we're on our computers. So it's researching, learning, and listening to experts. Has been very helpful.
Yeah, I have heard that a lot from people who are starting their own brands, and also in my market right now I'm taking a digital marketing class, so he talks all about that all the time. So my next question I have for you is so so for your company for BSWANKY, did you have to get a patent for your design,
That's
or
another
did
good.
you get a patent?
It's interesting. In Sarasota, one of the biggest companies is Dart. The Solo cup, the red Solo cup that everyone uses, is Dart, and they never got a patent on that Solo cup. And they're billionaires, the Dart family, and it was because they did not get a patent. So when I went to go get a design or let me just say, or a utility patent on this bag, because our handbag, if anyone that's watching has looked us up, it goes effortlessly from a handbag right into a backpack. And it's got a unique shape too when it opens up. And so when we went to look into getting a design or a utility patent, what it does is it opens up everyone else to how this is made. Okay. And I believe anyone that did reverse engineering in China or something could take it apart and take a try at making this. But it is so labor intensive. There are 72 components in the bag, not including thread and paint. So it'd be really difficult to reproduce it. So I weighed both options of getting a patent on it and not. And attorneys advised me to not file for a patent, because then it opens it up to everyone else. So see, it goes right into a backpack. So we were weighing getting that. So we went without doing that. And we've been pretty good so far. I haven't seen any knockoffs or anything yet, but it's only been 3 years. So we'll see if I make the right decision or not.
How did you come up with the design idea of your bag? It's the Sophie bag, right?
Yes, it is.
How did you come up with the idea of turning a handbag into a backpack?
Well, I wanted something different that no one had. And I struggled because even going back in college, I wouldn't want to carry a backpack because they weren't attractive enough. So I wanted to create something different, really unique. And I use the word iconic a lot because that's where people stop and they say, I've never seen a handbag like that. But then it had to function as well. And what's interesting is we went back and forth with the design and the straps to be long, the perfect length for a handbag, and then also transform and be a backpack that fits about 95% of people perfectly. It was a lot of back and forth. And the first few designs didn't work. A lot of them didn't work. And we kept pivoting. And that's something else. You got to pivot. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to pivot really fast. And so we went back and forth till we nailed it. And I will never forget when I worked with with a gentleman from Ecuador that had been designing handbags. And when he came up wearing it on his back, and he's a big strapping bodybuilder guy, and it fit him and then fit me, I was like, we're good. This is really good. And we have heard from our customers, the number one piece of feedback we get from them is they get more compliments with our handbag than any accessory they've ever owned. So that's where I said the one thing I'm really good at is knowing what looks good.
What do you think is something that like stands out the most with your brand in compared to say Gucci or Louis Vuitton?
We keep our logo real subtle, the brand name, because it's not about that. It's about the beauty of the materials that are used and the shape of the bag.
Mhm.
So we also push the envelope. We do lime green eel skin, bright yellow eel skin, materials that are really unique. We use a lot of different embossed leathers. Some have skulls, sugar skulls on them. But I want to always, we say, thinking outside the bag. And so I've always pushed the envelope with design. I've always wanted to wear what no one else has. So when people say to me, did you see what this company's doing? I don't look at the other companies for what they're doing. I look at the materials out there that I can source, and then I design based on that. And I want to push the envelope. And a woman came in one time to we have a beautiful boutique right in front of our atelier. And she came in and she said, I would like a handbag that blends in. And I said, then please don't buy BSWANKY because you won't. And so she ended up, I I encouraged her to get a red handbag and she loves it. I said, go for it. Go for what you really want to carry.
I was looking at the Sofiette. Is that how you pronounce it? The green eel one. That one is just absolutely gorgeous. I love anything like that dark emerald green. But I whenever I purchase a bag or purchase something, especially if I'm spending a fair amount of money on it, I want to make sure I know where it comes from. And I want to know that it's being ethically made, it's being like sustainably made, and also especially like what you do with your work, with your the women you work with, like they're all treated nicely and treated properly, and they have actually can put their time in and enjoy it. And I really do appreciate that with your brand. And my next question for you is sorry, just give me one
Well,
second.
you want to say something about what you said. It came to my attention when we started this that over 50% of US factories are categorized as sweatshops. I bet
Mhm.
anyone right now didn't know that. And in LA, it's over 75% of them. And that means they have had violations of paying less than minimum wage because they pay by the piece, no air conditioning, no breaks. So that when you look at a tag and it says made in America, made in the USA, go ahead and do some research, because that doesn't mean it's made responsibly in the United States. And that's what we're passionate about. So that's something that was shocking. You think worldwide that's going on. It's going on in our own country.
Yeah, I found out I bought a nicer brand, and I found out that the brand actually makes it in China, and I was very upset about that, because just because it's put together in in the country they say it's from, all the sourcing came from China. So I really appreciate a brand that is made in the U.S., and not just made, is also sourced in the U.S. too. So my next question for you is, um, what is your best advice to young entrepreneurs?
Be optimistic would be one thing. And also, I always go back to surround yourself with people that will give you solid advice, that aren't just giving you yes. Don't surround yourself with yes people. I surround myself with people that are, they're hard on me. They want the best for BSWANKY, but how much do you really know? I say, when you come from a place of knowing everything, there's no room for growth. So again, what I know today is going to completely change tomorrow. And it's taking all the information from all of these different sources. I have a handful, I'd say about 5 great advisors that are like my phone of friends. And I take all of their information and I make the best decision based on the advice and information they've given me. But surround yourself with people that have done it, older mentors, people that have gone around, have been around that industry. And don't be afraid to ask.
Thank you for that. And I have one last question for you. What is the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your professional journey? And what advice for someone like myself would you give, who's just starting their career off, even if it's not as in entrepreneurship, but just in general?
Okay. The biggest lesson I've learned, I say, the biggest lesson I've learned is to, there's something good to be said about making decisions quickly. However, I've learned that when it's a major decision, I need to slow it down. Lots of things are coming at me. I mean, we're actually manufacturing. Oh, there's things we're ordering. There are customers. There's retailers we deal with. There's salespeople we have. There's all of these moving parts. And someone said it's like you have a bunch of spinning plates that you're holding up, and they're all spinning. And so when the big major decisions come, or the major questions, and you have to answer them, or you have to make a decision that's pretty big, I now pause. Even, if it's something you're emailing back, or you've got to call someone, pause, take a deep breath, think about it, and take your time making that decision. And you might make a different decision. And that's what I'm learning. So the decisions I thought I made were so good a couple of years ago, I probably would have done it differently. But that's where, again, I keep learning, and it's so helpful. And so what was the second part of the question? Advice for you?
Not just for me, but someone like myself, who is just starting their career in general.
Yeah.
What is your advice?
Do what you love. If you love it, again, I work probably 12-hour days. I don't ever think it's work. I mean, the idea of doing this tonight is great. This is fun for me. So if you love it and you're not just punching a clock, that's the best thing. And if you can't do what you love right now, and you need to pay your bills doing something else, in your spare time, volunteer doing it somewhere else. Like if you love fashion, if you can volunteer doing something for a fashion company and get in there, you will learn so much. And don't discount that. Just learning from other people is so valuable.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, Gretchen. At this time, we would like to take some questions from our guests. So if you have any questions, please share them in the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. And thank you so much again, Gretchen. I really appreciate talking with you tonight.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much to you both. Gretchen, thank you. Everything that you said was so inspirational and really fascinating. We really appreciate it. And Sam, thanks again for interviewing Gretchen. We really appreciated your time as well. So we do have some questions that did come in. And if you don't mind, I'll pass them over to you. So this is kind of a two-part question from two different people, but I'll ask it at the same time. Gretchen, how many people do you employ, and what are their backgrounds?
We have 7 members right now, so we're a small group that are employed. We have several subcontractors that work throughout the country right now that we outsource to, and we have business partners that I have. So we have 5 of those involved. So we're still a smaller group. And what was the second part? I'm sorry.
What are the backgrounds of the people who work for you?
Mostly they're seamstresses right now, and then we have social media people, marketing people. But right now, the seamstresses are primarily who we employ right now, and they're craftspeople, they're artisans. But then we also have business partners that are actually one's in Philadelphia there, and so his background is multi-level. He's worked with fashion companies and has some experience in that, but he's a venture capitalist. Then I have a business partner who is a CEO of a company out in Oklahoma. And so it's like all different people coming together from different industries, which is really helpful.
Definitely a great mix of people. And that's what keeps it going, keeps it thriving, to get all the inspiration and their values, their input. It's wonderful. Have you, we've had a couple of questions similar. Have you received any sort of backlash from animal rights groups, anything like that?
That's a really good question, because we just recently came across a gentleman that authenticates, believe it or not, authenticates snake skins for Christie's auction house. And what this will do for us, he's going to do it with the snake skins that we are receiving from Amy Seaweed, where it makes them pieces of conservation. So therefore, even if they are, upset about the fact that we're using a python, which I can't understand because they've eaten all the birds and bunnies in the Everglades, this will at least authenticate it and put some documentation there where it shows that it's a conservation piece. But no, we have never gotten anything so far. Thank goodness. We save everything, we reuse everything, and nothing is thrown out in the building. And so we're very, very careful with that.
Definitely sustainable, for sure.
Oh, and one other thing, people don't realize that we use hair on cow hides and leather. And right now, there is such an increase in the demand for beef. So they are actually putting cow hides in landfills. So if someone has issues with that, we're actually taking them where they would go in landfills right now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And what is, let me see, sorry, there was a question that we did have, and I seem to have lost that. Are you going to create additional product extensions?
That's a good question. We have a cuff that just came out that Liz Catherine in the atelier designed in her spare time. At night, she was doing this and presented it to us, and it's eel skin and python, and that just came out. We launched that a couple weeks ago, and it's just a beautiful, and it's men and women are wearing it, and it's pretty bold and beautiful. And then we have another bag that Liz Catherine also designed, which is a unisex laptop case that will be launching in our new cobalt blue and black python, which is coming out in 2 weeks. So look for that. We wanted to stay focused on our iconic shape bag because I had received advice we had the head of production for Victoria's Secret come in and purchase one of our handbags. And she gave me a really good piece of advice. She said, right now you've sold thousands of bags. Wait till you have sold tens of thousands of bags and then move to another product. But if you deviate from this product that everyone loves and they're buying multiple, you'll lose your focus. And so, again, I've got to listen to those really, really intelligent and expert advisors that I have. But look for more. And we do listen. If anyone has any ideas, send them to us. We listen to our customers.
That's fantastic. And I think having a company with the entrepreneurs, that type of mentality, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you to create more. That's fantastic. And well, you've kind of answered this next question. What do you see as your next venture? How do you suggest reinventing yourself? But it sounds like you're already on that.
Well, our next venture is we want to be all across the country. We're in about 6 different states with retailers, but we want to grow that and take on the entire country and become a national brand. And we are going into several of the Harley Davidson dealerships. So that's exciting for us. Porsche is selling us. So we're looking for some retail partnerships, especially resort areas throughout the country. So that's kind of our next level of getting to that nationwide retailer. We do very well in Pennsylvania, very well in Texas, and in Florida. There are like 3 main states.
And you also sell overseas in the UK, correct?
We do. We're sold outside London, and one of our members is over there, and that's really exciting. It's challenging exporting right now. They don't make it easy, and that's something we're working on. So we're focused more in the US right now than outside of the US.
Fair enough. Yeah. And what about, have you thought about any design, like interior design type of products?
I think I need to keep the focus on the handbags, and it's again, I keep saying we're changing and elevating everything. If you saw one of our handbags 3 years ago versus what it is now, and the people that have the bags from 3 years ago, they will not give them up. They're like, these are my favorite bags in the world. And I say, but look what we've done. They go, nope, I love my BSWANKY. They love their original bags, and they hold on to them because people have said they're investment pieces, which I love. But again, we need to keep a focus on what we're doing. So again, when people come to us, men keep asking us, men need better bags. They say design bags for men. Right now, our primary focus is women, but the sky's the limit. We plan on bringing out more and more products over the years. And that's what's really exciting because we can.
Sounds really exciting. So it's watch this space, really. Let's see what happens with BSWANKY. That's fantastic. We've got one more question here. Do you find that most customers are utilizing payment systems such as Afterpay?
Oh, we just added Afterpay recently, and no, they're not. And it's interesting because last week we sold more of our full Python bag that is this than any other bag. So it's the most expensive bag we have, and no one used Afterpay. So it's interesting in this global pandemic where people are worried about the economy. Bloomberg just came out with a report that people are buying luxury products more than ever, and online. They buy them sight unseen, which is amazing. So I'm surprised more people aren't using the Afterpay because we do have it available. So if someone's on the fence, you think, oh, it's 4 easy payments, I would think they would do it. And we keep promoting it, but I'm not so sure that's our customer right now.
No, fair enough. That's it. That's great. And just kind of moving to something that we haven't really discussed over the evening. Can you tell us a little bit more about the partnerships that you have with nonprofit organizations? Because I know that's something that's close to your heart as well.
Oh, it's amazing. We have 3 major giving partners, and the first one was National Breast Cancer Foundation in Frisco, Texas. And when I went out there, we had just started. And I was crazy enough to design a pink bag and bring it out to them not knowing whether they were going to say yes or not. And we created a line called Unreal Pink to represent the unreal strength and unreal courage that women come up with, not only to fight breast cancer, but to support those who have it. And it's one of the bags we've kept at a much lower price point because we want it to be affordable for everyone. And it gives back all year long to breast cancer and to National Breast Cancer Foundation. That organization's amazing. So I'm grateful that they took a chance on us at the very beginning. I mean, we were brand new, an unknown brand. So that is one of our giving partners, and they're wonderful. And our second giving partner was South Florida National Parks Trust with the pythons. And so that gives back to a percentage of all of the python products sold, 100% of our keychains. A man just came in and said, I'll take 6 keychains. Another woman bought 10 a couple of weeks ago. And all of that gives back to South Florida National Parks Trust, and then a percentage of each bag. And they provide grants and education to help restore the Everglades, the delicate balance of the ecosystem in the Everglades. So that we love. And they're going to come out with much more marketing and promotion for that, which is great. They're an amazing organization on the East Coast of Florida. The third one happened so serendipitously, and it was Tidewell Hospice Blue Butterfly House Family Grief Center. And I just happened to be wearing black shoes with blue butterflies, and the head of Tidewell, one of the heads of Tidewell, approached me at a nonprofit event and asked if we would partner. The really neat thing is my ex-husband had started the Blue Butterfly House Family Grief Center, and they didn't even know that. And so together we can work together, and my daughter can see this, and it gives back. He started a place called Peter's Place up in Radnor, Pennsylvania, which is an amazing center for grieving children who have lost a parent, sibling, or family member, or a friend. And so he reproduced that down in Florida. And we have a blue butterfly give back, and we have the Mariposa bag, which an artist hand painted it. And we sold 7 the first night we launched it. So look for that. But that gives back 15% on every product purchase to Tidewell Hospice Blue Butterfly Family Grief Center. So those are our giving partners, and I am passionate about them.
And we're just passionate about just listening to you. It's just wonderful how much you do give back. We really appreciate everything that you do, and that your company has done as well. One final question: you've learned so much from your own mentors. How do you suggest finding great mentors, and have you yet to mentor a young professional?
So I found them several different ways. I mean, it could be you're shopping at the grocery store and someone starts talking to you. It's putting feelers out there constantly. I call it casting nets. Every day I must send out 10 different emails. And before the pandemic, when things were out in the open and people would meet, like I said, I joined every organization I could. And even if they wouldn't let me join, I'd go as a guest. So there are CEO groups. There was a group called Vista Startups here, the Small Business Administration, Career Source here. We have the Economic Development Corporation, but there are a lot of government organizations that will connect you to the right people. Look for retired people, because they are people that are able to help you. They have the time. But one piece of advice that I pass on to people like Sam who are young: when you get these advisors, listen to them. There is nothing worse than when you don't listen. They won't stick by you. The reason I have these advisors that have once been with me with interior design, and he's the gentleman up in Philadelphia, Bobby. He helps me now. The reason is because I take his advice, not all of it, but I take it, I listen, and I learn from them. And if you are taking their advice, they will continue to mentor you. And when they continue to mentor you, you will continue to succeed.
Just that is great advice. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, thanks to both of you for your time. We really appreciate that you were able to take time out of your busy schedules and join us this evening. Gretchen, again, it was fantastic and fascinating to hear your story and how far you've come in just a short amount of time with BSWANKY. And I'm just going to share a little screen.
And Veronica, anyone can contact me directly if they have any questions. I'm happy to answer them or point them in the direction of someone who can help them.
Thank you, Gretchen. And that's how we started working together. I just, sent you an email and you responded straight away. So we really appreciate it. So thank you. I can vouch for that. You do respond.
Thank
And again, thanks to everyone who logged in this evening as well. We hope you found this interview informative and inspirational. Certainly, I was inspired. You'll have an opportunity to complete a survey afterwards, and a recording of this interview will be available on the Jefferson Alumni YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. And look out for more of our exclusive online events in the next year, including Your Purple Crayon, Reimagining Your Career with alumna Jennifer Blaga. Registration is open at jefferson.edu/alumni events. And you can follow us on our social media channels to find out more about our exclusive events and other alumni information. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, in addition to our Jefferson webpage. And again, thanks so much for everyone for joining us this evening. I hope you stay well and stay safe. Good night.